Hi, Rick. How are you?
I'm great, Derek. How are you?
I'm really well, and welcome to the Creative Experience. It's fantastic to see you. We've been connecting with each other on social media, but actually to actually speak with you in person is really brilliant.
It's really great when you can reach out to other people in your field. I have a particular love of the British artist in stained glass, and so it's wonderful to talk to you.
Let's start at the beginning because you have a long career in glass, and you have your own studio that you run called Sycamore Studios,
Yes.
which is your company. And then you work as an artist, and you are on social media on Instagram. And I'll leave details in the description below of how the audience can reach you on social media. You have your own work as well. So, what's the story with you? How did you get involved with glass to start
Well,
with?
it's kind of a funny story. When I was young, I was extremely religious. In my teenage years, very religious. Reading the Bible night and day, and and I actually went to college with the intention of becoming a Baptist minister. I decided after 3 years that I just couldn't do this, and I went to art school. I studied at Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts for 5 years and as an oil painter. And in fact, that's how I saw myself for many years. That was my artistic output. And but meanwhile, I got my prerequisite opportunity to work in a restaurant as an artist. And a couple friends of mine, when they got out of art school, they went through a program, an apprenticeship program that was absolutely fantastic at Willet Studios, which was once a big, great studio here in Philadelphia. So I got a job in Willet Studios, and I became the general manager there. I thought of myself as a stained glass artisan. People gave me drawings, and I executed them and I interpreted them, but it wasn't my work. And meanwhile, I was going to the studio at night and painting on giant canvases all night. So that's how I got into it.
So you set up your studio. What year was it that you set up Sycamore Studios?
I started setting it up in 2011, and I started drawing like every day. What I found when I started drawing was that the lead line was really important to me. The lead was, I felt like the lead was the underdog. So I wanted that material to have its voice. And so I was making these big, I was making these calligraphic sketches. And I threw out a lot of them. I mean, I was trying to figure it out. But then I got to a certain point where I felt like this is worth making.
I was first introduced to you, Rick, through social media, through Instagram, and I saw these amazing pieces, these really highly complex mosaics of glass and lead on a relatively small scale. So when did you first start making these? Because these are very particular to your vision, and I haven't seen anyone else really doing this type of work, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. I really like it.
Yeah, this is the work that that I think of as my artwork. So what happened with these concrete pieces is that I was making these large calligraphic pieces, and they had a lot of lead in them, and I was making these heavy wood frames and lacquering them with black and hanging them in the windows, and and I liked the work, but I had two issues with it. One was uh, getting it shown in a gallery, because galleries, number one, they don't have windows mostly, and number two, they quite often have their opening at 7 o'clock at night, and you don't get any natural light. It was hanging these things up. I was thinking about how can I show this stuff. At the same time, there's something vulnerable about a stained glass window that's hanging in front of another window. It feels to me like an architectural piece that's halfway there, and this bothered me. So because I'm so focused on the materials, and because I think, from my background, I think of these materials as architectural materials, and they have a history of being built into buildings. One of my solutions to that is to find a way to make these pieces somehow architectural, but not dependent on being in a building. And I can't tell you the truth how I came up with concrete, but all I can say is I went and I bought a big bag of this Quikrete. I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to mix this stuff. I was having a hard time. Uh, I, but I made the first one, and when I actually took a piece of stained glass out of one of those lacquer wood frames and put it in this concrete, and my jaw dropped. I I don't know if you ever had this experience, but it was like, oh my God, that is the answer.
I think what I particularly like about your work is the fact that you have pared it down to those. There are three things, three materials there. You've got this wonderful choice of glass, and you use opalescence, you use semi-opalescence, and then you use translucence and transparent glass. You use mirror as well, and then you're playing this with this wonderful lattice work of lead. This really detailed, and it's unusually detailed. I mean, you're using heavy leads, you're using small leads together, and you're making this wonderful mosaic sort of vibration of lead matrix. And then you've got the concrete as well. So there's those three key components. The final item really is this. It's light, isn't it? It's light. That this chemistry that really you're not in control of, that comes to play, and that dynamism, that the fact that you're talking about the different qualities of light, the early morning light and the evening light, that's when the wow factor happens.
Absolutely. And one of the pieces that really drove this home to me, I actually is named Spin for a Western Light. And the reason it's named that was because the studio I had at the time had this window facing west. And one day I was working in the studio from probably like 7 o'clock until 7 o'clock in the evening. And so I got to watch this piece all day long changing. And that change blew my mind because it was significant. These opals in particular move from a cool gray through a warm yellow and like into almost a magenta color, and that made me say to myself, I have got to I've got to do more with this.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely fascinating because this membrane, you can really control this membrane. You can allow light to pass through it, or you can allow light to stop on the surface of the glass. I mean, if you put a little wash of pigment on the front surface of the glass, you can hold the light, can't you? You can allow it to stop, and it kind of bounces back on itself and illuminates that pane. And that's intriguing, isn't it? That whole manipulation of light and the traveling of light through the material is something that you're exploring in a lot of detail. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because people say to me, why don't you don't use paint? My response is, I'm not there yet. The intent is to have certain aspects be paint, but I'm not there yet.
Well, I love your work. I really love it. And you've sent, in preparation for this interview today, you sent me through a lot of images that I hadn't seen before. And there's a tremendous language at play here. You've got a visual language which is really unique to you, and there's so many variables within that. It's absolutely fabulous. And I love the fact that you polish the concrete as well. You give it a surface treatment as well, so it becomes integral to the artwork. I mean, that is, how has it been received with the art galleries? How have you found that process of exhibiting your work in the gallery rather than going down another route?
So it's hard, but the upside of all this is that I recently moved into this new space, and it's a very large and beautiful space, and it's in the business district of the town I live in, Lansdowne. So they have a rule that you have to have a retail space, and so I like devoted a third of the space to putting up a gallery. And so now not only do people get to see my work, but I get to see my work. I think it's very important to see your work over a period of time so you
What
can.
I think what's also important is to see it collectively together in one space, and that's what I find particularly interesting about looking at the work that you've sent to me. I'm seeing a sequence, I'm seeing a series, and that it takes on a different quality when you see an artist exploring something in the depth to the depth that you are, and you see a series of outcomes. It becomes bigger than the sum of its parts. So, Rick, can you talk to me about or bring to the attention of the audience three projects of particular merit?
I designed this piece and it had these spots of color in the middle of glass, a bigger piece of glass, and I was like, how am I going to do that? Because that's what I want to do. And I bought a bunch of diamond bits and all sorts of things, and I broke a lot of glass. I just had no idea what I was doing. And then I had a friend who really didn't do stained glass much, but he had occasionally done some for other clients, and I was telling him about how this was going, and he said, "Oh, Rick, did you ever see one of those like round saws and the blade opens up and you can drill a little hole and then you thread the blade through and then you can cut the bigger hole." And I went back, I got one of those blades, and it was like, where have you been all my life? Yeah. So, so that was important for me because it gave me more um, leeway in terms of how I placed the color. And at the same time, one of the things I began to do was make these little lead dots. And in fact, the name of that piece is two circles and a dot. Spin for a Western Light. That piece, I would say, made me realize endless possibilities of glasses that have a white flash on them. And I guess the third piece was it was a large grid, and a lot of times after I've put the basic lead work in, there are places I want to knock back a little, and so I'll take small pieces of string lead and things, and I'll solder them on both sides of the piece so that I'm getting more density in terms of the lead, and your eye is stopped more completely. So those three pieces were, I think, really important.
Rick, I've so much enjoyed talking with you today. I really do genuinely love your work. I love this exploration that you're on, this journey of materials and use of materials and the chemistry of light and materials together. It's absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much for spending some time with me here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this. It's a wonderful thing to spend time with another stained glass artist and talk about the work, because sometimes you know just the smallest thing can be a tremendous insight. So thank you.